Welcome everybody to TechCraft. This is Rob, and today I'm going to review one of my favorite pieces of kit, the Logitech Spotlight Presentation Remote. I give a reasonable number of presentations, both on stage to large audiences and sat around a table in a small room to a small audience. And what I want from a presentation remote is something that obviously lets me proceed through the presentation. Ideally, I can go backwards and I can go forwards in my slide deck. Something that allows me, if possible, to draw attention to different parts of my presentation so I can draw the audience into what I'm trying to say, but also something that gives me a way to know when my presentation time slot is almost up. So some kind of feedback timer alert system in the controller, in the remote, is ideal for me. I think that the Spotlight remote is the remote that meets all of these needs better than any remote that I've used in the past. But at around about £70 today on Amazon, it's not cheap. And when you compare it to the £25 you can spend on something like this little thing, which is a Kensington wireless remote, it may well be just too much to spend if you don't give a lot of presentations. However, if you give maybe 2 or 3 presentations each month, maybe you're a consultant, you're in sales, you do a lot of public speaking, then I think you'll find the investment in this probably worthwhile. Let's dive in now to see why I think that's the case. Let's take a look at some of the features. Let's take a look at what sets this remote apart from other cheaper remotes. And if you hang around till the end, I'll show you how to configure it on your MacBook to get the most out of that £70 you're going to be spending. Let's go. Let's start by talking about build quality. The remote is made from a kind of very high quality plastic. It almost has a graphite feel and look to it. It's textured, which means that when you're holding it during a long presentation, it's not going to slip out of your hand easily. In fact, if you're going to be on stage, you might have stage lights, which can make you quite warm, can make your hands quite sweaty. This is great for holding during those exact kind of presentations. In the box, you get the remote itself. You also get this very cool carrying case and this tiny little charger. The charging cable is USB-C, so if you have a MacBook Pro or an iPad Pro or another device that has USB-C, there's no need to actually carry the Logitech supplied charging cable with you. However, the charging port is very, very small, so you may wish to check that your charging cable will fit into this charging port before you set off on a trip for a presentation. Logitech says that you'll get 3 months of usage off a single charge. I can't imagine how they've measured that because everybody has different usage patterns, 1 presentation a week, 1 presentation a day, 1 presentation an hour. So I can't imagine that they've really verified that. However, what is cool, a full charge only takes about 60 minutes. And if you charge it up for 1 or 2 minutes, you get enough power to last you for a 3-hour presentation. So you're not really going to ever find yourself in a situation where you can't get the power you need for an upcoming presentation. Right here at the bottom of the unit, this little Logitech unified receiver pops out. So if you want to connect your remote via the Logitech receiver, you can do, but I've got to assume that everybody's going to be using Bluetooth for connecting this to their laptop or to their tablet. And as with all of the recent generation of Logitech products, the Bluetooth is basically flawless. It never drops out. You don't have any issues with it. It connects really, really quickly. I'm really loving how well Logitech's Bluetooth is performing in its recent generation of products. Okay, let's now talk about the buttons. One of the best things about this remote is how well positioned the buttons are and how few of them there are and how simple they are to use. So the main button fits really comfortably where your thumb would be when you're holding the remote. And it's that main button that you use to move forwards through your presentation. Just below the main button, you'll see that there is a back button which you can use to go backwards in your presentation. So the main movement controls through your presentation are covered by those 2 buttons, and you can easily hit them both with your thumb just by rocking it backwards and forwards, which I think is great. The button at the top here is the pointer button. The pointer is really the standout feature on this remote. And rather than me try to explain to you how it works, I'm going to grab my laptop. I've made a noddy little presentation and I'll do a demo of how the pointer works in a real presentation setting. Let's go. So here I am with my very fancy, very TED-worthy presentation. And I can proceed through this presentation by pressing the forwards button, and then when I go too far in my presentation, I can go backwards by pressing the backwards button. The coolest thing though is when I get to this slide where I've got a really important point to make, I can hold down the pointer button, and as I move my pointer side to side, what we're seeing is that the screen dims and the pointer kind of highlights an area on the screen, which is the area I want to draw my audience's attention to. The pointer is so cool, but we aren't just limited to the highlight mode. The pointer actually has 3 different modes. It has highlight, magnify, and laser pointer. Let's take a look at those 3 in the presentation right now. So we've already seen highlight mode where the screen dims and the pointer highlights a particular area on the screen that you indicate with where you place your hand. If we switch to magnify, the magnify mode works very similarly, where you indicate with the pointer is where the screen changes, but instead of highlighting, it actually punches in and zooms in on that part of the screen. And then the laser pointer mode, in my opinion, is the least useful mode on the pointer because it just puts a kind of virtual laser pointer on the screen. If all you really want is a presentation remote that has a little bit of a laser pointer, I refer you back to the start when I showed the Kensington one, which is a lot cheaper and does perfectly well as a laser pointer. You can enable multiple pointer modes at once, and then you can double tap the top button to switch between them. Nailing this requires a little bit of practice. It's quite easy to get confused which mode you're in as you're doing a presentation. So given that, and given how basically useless the laser pointer mode is, I recommend just enabling magnify and enabling highlight and switching between the 2 as you need. It's worth diving into the customization menus a little bit. I won't do them all now, but I will point out one option that I think is very important. If I start panning around now with the pointer, you'll see that the actual mouse cursor is following my movement. And if I just tap the pointer button, it acts like a click. Now, you might want this behavior, but often this can lead to confusing presentations. I do a lot of presentations where I switch backwards and forwards between software demos and the actual presentation material, and then not knowing where the cursor is or accidentally clicking things can be quite confusing. So if you dive into the menu, just like I'm doing here, what you can do is disable that behavior, and I tend to disable that by default. The pointer might be the coolest feature of this remote, but I think the most useful is actually the timer support. So if I go up to the menu here, I can tell the presentation software how long I think my presentation will last. So I'm going to choose 15 minutes. And then if I click into this menu, I can then say, I want to have an alert when there's only 14 minutes left, when there's 5 minutes left, and when there's 2 minutes left. And I've chosen 14 minutes for the purposes of this demo. Now, when I start my presentation, if I have a dual screen set up, so I'm able to see the speaker view, over that speaker view, there's a little alert panel here and you can see it. And now when I get down to 14 minutes left, it's going to flash and give me an indication that I'm near the end of my presentation. Now, a lot of presentation software already has this built in. Where the remote goes a step further is that I also get haptic feedback. So maybe I'm strolling across the stage and I can't see the speaker monitor, or maybe I'm in a room and there is no speaker monitor. So here, when I get to 14 minutes, you can see that the remote vibrates and I get that feedback immediately in my hand, and I know just how long I've got left for my presentation. The Spotlight remote looks and feels great, and if you're giving a lot of presentations, then I think the awesome pointer and the haptic timer feedback are great features that you'll get a lot of value from. That said, if all you do is you do a few presentations every year, then something cheaper like the Kensington wireless remote that I showed earlier on is probably going to be sufficient. I'll put links to both of these in the comments below. These are affiliate links. They don't cost you any extra, but they do contribute to the running of this channel. I hope you found this review useful. I'll be posting regular gear reviews, pro tips, and tutorials that will help you improve your tech craft. Please hit like, please hit subscribe, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any of the new content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.